This is Soliloquy Radio, the podcast that discusses philosophy, spirituality, consciousness, and paths to a positive lifestyle from a non-theistic perspective. So sit back and open your mind. All right, welcome back to another episode of Soliloquy Radio. I'm your host, as always, Otis Ayala. And today's subject matter, we're going to be talking about thought. In particular, the power of thought. See, the power it has to influence our reality and change things for the better or for the worse, if we allow it to, is sometimes mind-boggling. Before every action we take, before any decision we make, there's always the thought that comes first. Even if we aren't conscious of it, the thought comes before all actions and decisions. And these thoughts are powerful. They can be influenced. They can influence. They can change with time. They can change your time. They can mold your reality and allow you to experience heaven or hell within the same event. And this brings me to a story of my own. The story of the first thought. And it's kind of like my own personal creation story. You know, every culture, every religion has a creation story. So I figured, why not make my own? So it was many years ago that in the midst of pondering this concept, I came to this understanding. And I will talk about this on a later episode, being able to tap into the collective mind. But for now, we're going to continue with the story. And this is the concept that I drew. That in the beginning, there was nothing. There was no life, no light, no dark. There was just the source. But the source did not know it existed. So it was just there, kind of like a bear in hibernation or a slumber, or being unconscious, just alive but not aware. And at some point, the source awoke. But before the source awoke, there was the original thought. The thought behind the action that caused it to awake. The thought of I am. The thought of awareness. The knowledge of self. In that moment of the first thought, the universe was born. We also refer to this as the Big Bang. Now, this is the power of thought, sheer energy in motion. There is more to this creation story, but that's going to be yet for another time. Right now, we're focusing on thought and how to use thought to change our world. Not only our world, when I mean our personal world, our day-to-day lively world, but the world at large, the world in general, the world of the world. Changing our world? Think about that for a second. It's a deep down desire. We all have it. In there, we always think of a better world that we can live in, a safer society, better for our children, a more utopian society. We all have wishes for improvement, not only our daily lives, but just life in general. And that is, of course, if you're not some evil scientist living in a top secret hideout in a volcano hell-bent on world domination. No, I'm only kidding. So how do we get there? How do we make progress in that direction? And whose responsibility is it ultimately? It is each one of us who's responsible. It is each one of us who can make a change. But how? How exactly can we make that progress? The majority of us go about the wrong way to usually obtain solutions. We look towards others to fix our problems. We look towards others to fix our society. We look towards others to fix our world. We look towards politicians, religious leaders, icons, sometimes celebrities to fix the problems of the world. We look towards spouses, parents, in order to fix problems in our personal lives. And when it isn't accomplished, we have a scapegoat to blame. And that is usually at the core of why some relationships fail, because we want them to fix something and then we blame them when it's not, when in actuality, it is our responsibility to fix our own problems. The more we understand this concept, the more we are able to find solutions. And the more we are able to take responsibilities of not only our actions, but our thoughts, the thoughts before the actions. But in society at large, in the world's problems, we get caught in a repetitive political game, especially here in America, where every voting cycle, it's the same thing. The Republicans in office haven't fixed the problem, so we need to vote Democrat. And the next cycle, the Democrats haven't done enough, so we go back voting Republican. And the cycle after that, we go back to voting Republicans out. And back and forth and back on this endless two-party system that we've been living in. And the majority of Americans know that corporations and lobbyists have purchased our politicians' interests, regardless of the political affiliation that they have. That our system is inherently corrupt, and that the system is rigged in favor of business and the rich. Yet instead of looking for new options, we keep looking and we keep up this political charade with hopes that one day it will change. Because we fail to understand that the problem is ourselves. We put the blame on the politicians when it's not the politicians, it's the ideas behind them, the thoughts. Then we turn to religion to try to solve these problems. But in fact, the major religions, when we look at the major religions, which is Christianity and Islam and Judaism, these religions are more concerned with the afterlife. They're more concerned with the afterlife than of improving our current world. If it doesn't help you with the entrance into heaven or help you attain the promise of a better world in the afterlife, they're not concerned. Ask yourself, if you don't believe me, how many sermons have you heard about the collective good? How many sermons have you heard about protecting the environment? How many sermons have you heard about going to the beach and doing a beach cleanup? If it were up to me, personally, I would destroy all of the heavens. Every heaven that has ever been created, every concept of heaven that has ever been created, which does not include a heaven in which you can currently live, but a heaven that you need to await an afterlife for, all of that would be destroyed if I had that power. And why? Why would I do that? Why would I eradicate it all? Because with that concept of an afterlife, people stop caring about the world that we have, about the one we actually live in. They don't care about making a collective difference because their reward is in the afterlife and not in this one. When your concern is focused on trying to get to heaven, things like improvement of society, assisting in the collective good, or putting judgment aside in favor of the whole all play second fiddle to the things you personally need to do to get to heaven. And when you're constantly thinking about getting to heaven, you end up not living your life. Because the thing is, if there is a heaven, even if there is, nobody knows. It's all conjecture. No one actually knows. No one's ever come back to tell you none of that. But if you constantly live your life in thinking that everything that you need to do is going to be on judgment so that you can get to an afterlife or reward or paradise that is much better than this world that we're in, then you end up not living your life. You don't live the one that you're given. When you live the one that you're given and you understand that you can create heaven here for you, that you can live heaven here, now, in the present moment, then you truly live life. You live life to the fullest, day to day, in this moment of now. See, I've said before that heaven and hell are not physical places. They're states of being. But how do we extend these states of being into our not only into from our mental into our physical personal world, but then take them into our physical collective society? First, we need to stop looking at others to fix the world's problems. We do this because we don't want to take that responsibility. We don't want to be the one who takes a stand. Some of it is because we fear striking out on our own. Some of it is because we feel insignificant, that one person can't make an impact. But this couldn't be further from the truth. See, I love this lyric out there by a song called Fight Song by Rachel Platter, and I know everybody listening right now has heard it. There's that one line in that song, and it always resonates with me. And she says in this song, she says, "I might only have one match, but I can make an explosion." See, that is just so profound, those words right there. That is almost a mantra that we can all try to live with. I might only have one match, but I can make an explosion. Because an explosion starts from a little spark. You don't need a whole book of matches. You don't need a lighter. You don't need a flamethrower. You just need one solitary match. And the match then puts forth the momentum that becomes an explosion. An explosion that can literally change everything in its vicinity. We need to see how we are that one match. Each one of us is a match. Each one of us is a spark. Each one of us can be the spark that causes an explosion in our lives. And not only our lives, not just ours, but in the lives of others around us. We have that power to affect those within our circle. Why do we need to wait for someone else to do what we see is necessary? Why do we feel that we're unworthy of being able to light others' paths? I say enough of that. That's it, no more. This is a new day. This is a new opportunity, a new paradigm. Brothers and sisters out there, it is time to awaken. Let's stop asking why me. Let's start asking why not me. For many decades, there's always been talk in the circles of metaphysics, in the circles of the New Age movement, of a shift in the collective consciousness. That people would start thinking on higher vibrations, that the collective would be on a higher vibration. I think the beginning of that stage is finally upon us. The very beginning of that, the first steps towards that. See, more and more people have been standing up to promote a positive message.